Well, according to Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt football will run the state of Tennessee.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thank you to the everydayers. Thank you to whoever stumbles in here on this episode. I appreciate you. We got a lot to talk about. Diego Pavia went on Bussin' with the Boys, and it did not disappoint. He was throwing shots at Tennessee, throwing shots at the Big Ten, throwing shots at Bama. At South, he's excited about the South Carolina game. He was pumping up his guys. He's got Vandy poised for a national championship run. He's going to be a first rounder. I mean, this guy is bold. He's got a lot to say, and I love the confidence, and you should too. And this is why this explains a lot about why Vanderbilt football was the way it was last year, and why we have big things expected in 2025. But thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Do you think the NIL Collective uses Monarch Money? They probably should. Anyway, but yeah, Diego Pavia, man, let's just say he's I wouldn't say ignited, but I think he's fueled the fire for some of these rivalries that are happening. Like the Tennessee Vanderbilt rivalry was sort of dormant. Not really active. Tennessee's kind of dominated this matchup for the most part. And now after today, I think this is going to kind of reinvigorate Tennessee fans within this rivalry. And that's for the state of Tennessee, that's going to be really, really good. It seems that Vanderbilt has kind of woken up finally. I think they woke up for a brief minute under James Franklin, a little bit under Derek Mason. But this rivalry is going to get really exciting in the state of Tennessee, mostly because of Diego Pavia saying this. Vanderbilt is going to run Tennessee after this year. This is going to be the new staple of college football. It's going to happen here at Vanderbilt. That's the short version of the quote. He went on to say that people come to Tennessee because of Nashville. Vanderbilt's in Nashville, so why not, right? Nashville loves supporting everything and anything having to do with their city. So, breaking down this quote, is it possible? I think it's a long shot, honestly, but I love the confidence and I love the direction. I love the goal. I love I love what he wants to do. He wants to galvanize Nashville behind Vanderbilt, which is what he should do. As a great leader, as a great ambassador for Vanderbilt University, and as somebody that's going to go to bat for Vanderbilt University because nobody else would, he's the one that comes out and says it. He's the greasy wheel. He's the guy that's going to hopefully get Nashville together. Now, this is going to rile up the Tennessee people. This is going to rile up Vol Nation, but I think it's going to make this rivalry even more exciting. It's been kind of a big brother, little brother type rivalry. Tennessee's kind of owned it, especially the last decade. I think the decade before that they split, and then before that it was pretty much all Tennessee for a long period of time. So I think this state could use a really good rivalry like that because I don't know about you, but the UT Martin, UT Chat, Austin P triangle rivalry just doesn't cut it, man. I think the two big schools need to have a ignited rivalry where there's some true kind of vitriol going between them, like a Florida State, where it doesn't matter if those teams are good year in and year out. It doesn't matter. Like Georgia, Florida dominated that rivalry for a better part of the late 80s and all the way up into the early 2000s, up until the 2010s. Right, Georgia won very seldomly, but that rivalry is still very intense because those were competitive games. But those two fan bases just hated each other, and they were locked in a lot of recruiting battles. I think with Vanderbilt taking recruiting seriously, I think with them taking NIL seriously, like this could be a real rivalry, because if Vanderbilt can somehow, with this quote and then going and backing it up, I think if for some reason they can start to turn Nashville more black and gold. Now, Nashville's more of a transient city than it's ever been within the span of this rivalry. So that's going to be a little bit more difficult to do, because there's Ole Miss people here, Alabama people here. Of course, a lot of people, of course, Tennessee, the state is mostly orange anyway. So that's tough to overcome. You've got a lot of, random fan bases from other places, Big Ten country as well. Those people aren't going to be happy, by the way. But I think just him saying that they're going to run Tennessee and they're going to take this thing over, I think it awakens how people feel about this rivalry. I think it awakens a lot of things when it comes to that. I think you look at how these teams operate, and it's really good for college football. It's good for college football that Vandy's good. It's good for the SEC that Vandy's good, because when when the conference as a whole, and we'll get to this rivalry in a minute, when they're sizing up against the Big 12. And you look at tail of the tape, everyone's going to point to Vanderbilt. Well, you got Vanderbilt, and they're going to be like, hold that thought. Vanderbilt's not the same Vanderbilt that when you made this point, they're not the same Vanderbilt. They're actually taking athletics seriously now a little bit. They're doing it with basketball. They're spending money. Hopefully baseball will come around, but they're starting to do it with football as well. They've completely rebuilt the roster. They've actually paid for guys. Like I think NIL, they're realizing like, hey, this could be really good for our university. We can actually be good at sports, and they're going to start actually paying attention, which is kind of dangerous, because they got a lot of NIL resources. They've got a city full, as Diego Pavia said, they got a city full of heavy hitters that would probably love to fund Vanderbilt. And so, again, it's not impossible. It's a very long, arduous uphill climb to turn Nashville black and gold. But it's not impossible at this juncture. It's not impossible for somebody like Diego Pavia to kind of capture the city based on who he is. And, if he can really have a special year where he's healthy the whole year, because he got hurt right after during the Kentucky game, and he kind of withered away because it got worse and worse and worse because he just couldn't rest. If he can play a full season healthy, and if they can go 7-5 regular season, 8-4 regular season, I think that'll go a long way. Now it won't, it won't completely turn the city. But I do love the confidence. I love the goals. I love everything about what he said. I think it's the right thing for him to say. I think his aggressive personality is what Vanderbilt absolutely needs. They need somebody like him, because nobody else will say it. Nobody else will come out and try to garner support from the city. And the way this city is they just need that spark. And once they get that spark, maybe this is the spark. Maybe you start to see a transformation. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't see into the future, but I think that this is a step in the right direction, having somebody come out and speak out and say, hey, Nashville, wake up. You have a team right here in your backyard that's going to be competitive. Support that, and you'll have a winner within your own city limits. You don't have to root for Tennessee. Nashville is the center of the state, literally and figuratively. It is the state capital. It is the premier place in the state of Tennessee. Let's start acting like it, and let's start acting like there's an SEC program within that city. And I think that's what he's trying to say. And he's trying to get Nashville to realize if they can support Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt can and will succeed. They will thrive. The administration has now woken up to that. We'll see what happens with that. So also, he's very bullish on the SEC as a conference. I mean, I know Greg Sankey was very, very thrilled to hear his comments. Those comments, if you haven't already heard, you're going to hear next. All right. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, man, it's so easy to lose track, man. All the takeout that I get, man, it's like I open the window and just my money just flies out of my hand. But that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO. It gives you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. There's some surprising insights, man. And I, there's some things that I looked at and when I just realized, honestly, how much I was spending on takeout, man. This is, it's crazy. But now, thanks to Monarch Money, I budget smarter and I save more. And that's really, really good. And instead of juggling multiple apps, man, it's just real simple. I just go right here. I go to one app and I can track everything from finances to spending, even plan long-term and all of that. And when I'm talking with my partner, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. My wife and I, it just makes it a lot easier. You can track shared, you can track personal accounts, you can set goals, you can stay on the same page without all the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. If you're just now stopping by for the first time, hope you guys stay around. Make sure you make Locked On SEC your next listen as well, or anybody on Vandy's schedule. Go check them out. Chris Marler, Locked On Gamecocks. Game 3, might want to circle that one. He's one to listen to, and of course, my man Steve Willis, Locked On Ole Miss. He does a phenomenal job. Vandy doesn't play Ole Miss in anything, but he does a phenomenal job nonetheless. So, Diego Pavia, man, he's creating quite the shockwaves through college football, through the SEC, through the state of Tennessee, here, there, and everywhere. Probably some shockwaves with some other things that he said, and then just some really good insight. I will say this, like I said, the guy's bold, man. He will say whatever comes to his mind. He just doesn't care. He's unfiltered. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And that's the way it's going to be with Diego Pavia. And I respect him for that. Like, I may not, you may not like everything he says. I may not like everything he says or the way he says it. But the fact that he is unafraid to speak his mind and to say it, I respect that. But and in order to respect that, I don't have to love everything he says. But this statement, being an SEC guy, it fires me up, right? But he already said he's going to run the state of Tennessee, which I live in Nashville, so I'm cool with that. But he says this as well. This was kind of a broken up quote, but he was arguing with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton, who are both Big Ten guys. They had a really, really throughout a couple of points in the show, they had some back and forth about SEC versus Big Ten. But he said he had this to say: you want to play with the best. You don't want to play with the Big Ten. You ignore those calls. The SEC, it's like week to week, week after week, you're going to get beat on. The Big Ten, you're not going to get beat on with the Purdues and the Nebraskas of the world. He wanted to argue with them for a little bit about SEC versus Big Ten. It's 2-2 in the NIL era, national championships, and all that good stuff. So there's a lot to be said. SEC versus Big Ten. Let me know what you think. What do you think? How do you think these comments go over? Right. And if he hadn't said that stuff about Tennessee, this would probably be the most controversial thing he said. But this is the second most controversial thing he said in the world of college football, because when you look at you look inside out, you got to start with the in-state, in-conference thing with the whole we're going to run the state of Tennessee, and then he takes shots at the Big Ten. So whether or not you agree with the mettle of each conference, I think for the 8-game schedule, I think Greg Sankey, first of all, is probably calling Diego Pavia right now and say, hey, thank you for backing up my point on the 8-game schedule. It is indeed brutal to play in this league, because top to bottom, this league, depth-wise, I think this league, now the Big Ten has more teams, but I think if you compare, obviously both teams are very, very elite at the top. And then I think you get, I think as you go down, now Mississippi State had a horrendous year. They lost big to Toledo. Auburn lost big to Cal, and there's some losses that people are going to point to. But I think if you just look overall and you take the big grand scheme of things, the SEC is deeper than the Big Ten, especially up front. And you can say what you want about the national champions. Congratulations. Michigan and Ohio State won the national championship. Illinois beat South Carolina. I'm trying to think of any other Big Ten SEC matchups that happened. There's going to be some one-offs. The Big Ten is a very talented, very good league. No one's saying they suck. Like, that's not. I think I think that kind of got lost in it. Like, I don't think Diego Pavia truly believes that the Big Ten sucks. I think he even admitted as much. He just thinks the SEC is just head and shoulders above. I think it's more of our league is better than your league, but your league is not bad. It's just you're number 2 and we're number 1. Like, I think that's what we're arguing here. Like, we're not saying, the Big Ten might as well be FCS football. Like, that's not what we're saying. Of course, the Big Ten is going to win some of those matchups. That's going to happen, right? These leagues, they offer scholarships too in the Big Ten, or unless they've changed something. And then they play 9 conference games, obviously. But I don't think their league top to bottom is as strong as the SEC, like week in and week out. I mean, you look at all these upsets. Arkansas was not considered a great team in the SEC. They beat Tennessee. They had some other upsets as well, but their biggest win was against Tennessee, in which they have a very talented roster. It's just, I think in the SEC, I think sometimes you get in these situations to where you just wear down, and very simply put, I think this league just beats up on each other, and they just, you can just get got. But like, I don't think, like, I'm trying to compare like apples to apples here. Obviously, take the bottom 4 out of the Big Ten. We'll take them or take. I think it's 20 versus 16 or 18 versus 16. I think take the bottom out and just measure the top 16 of the Big Ten compared to the SEC. Obviously, there's going to be some dregs that aren't matched in the Big Ten because they have more conference members. But like, Purdue was dreadful, Northwestern dreadful. I don't see. Mississippi State was pretty good talent-wise. They just not very deep of a roster, not an SEC roster. But like, I don't know, man. Like, it'd be a good game between them and Northwestern. Let me just put it that way. I don't know who would win. They'd probably split the series if you did 4 games. They'd probably split 2-2. But you look at a team like Rutgers, like, they're solid, but how would they fare against Arkansas? How would they fare against Vanderbilt or Kentucky or Auburn, Auburn finished in the bottom half of the league. They didn't go to a bowl game. Their roster, you put their roster up against any of the bottom half of the Big Ten, they're a lot better. So, like, he's right. Like, the SEC is just a deeper league, and week in and week out, it's just a freaking war. And so, and I know the Big Ten and SEC want to play every year, and I'm all for that. I'm obviously all for if the SEC wants to go 9 games. I mean, shoot, just create a super league at this point. You just play who you play, and you just, that's it. Treat it like the NFL, man. You want to be the best, you play the best, and let's go. But I think there is some truth behind the 8 games being more than enough for the SEC, because it's just the brutality of these games, the talent of these teams. Like, there is truly no easy outs, right? There is no easy outs in this league, and the recruiting rankings will back it up. The final top 25 will also back it up. And you can say all this SEC bias that, SEC bias that, but truth of the matter is these teams perform. They're talented and they're good. And the Big Ten has plenty of teams, right? We're not talking about the top half here. Like, the top half of the Big Ten is elite, right? Ohio State, for one, Penn State, Oregon, Washington's pretty good. USC, I think they're starting to trend back up. You've got teams like that. Wisconsin's usually pretty solid. Iowa's pretty solid. But then, like, once you kind of get below that, like, are you really trying to throw Minnesota out there? Like Nebraska, they're getting better, but like, are they there yet? I don't know. Like, are you trying to throw Maryland at me or Rutgers or, Michigan State? Like, what are we looking at here as far as all that goes? Like, how are we comparing this? What are our metrics? What are we measuring? I would love to do a side-by-side comparison. I may do one later on in response to this quote, but to me, I think he says what everyone's thinking with that one too. I think he says what everybody's thinking, right? You're kind of in the SEC. It's an all out freaking war every single week. It is a black and blue league. You're bruised up, you're beat up through the conference slate. And it's just rough, man. And the Big Ten is not bad. It's not quite the gauntlet that the SEC is. That's okay. You don't have to be insensitive about it. If I was a Big Ten guy, I would be like, yeah, you're probably right. Like, SEC is it's just a deeper league, more depth in the league. I think at the top right now, the Big Ten has got a little bit of an upper hand at the very top of the league right now because they're two-time reigning national champions as a conference. Michigan, year before last, and this past season, Ohio State. Before that, it was 2 years of Georgia, and then before that, it was a steady run of SEC teams. So if you want to try to play the recent history, like you just go back like 2 years, you can start the run of SEC titles. But that is neither here nor there. Diego Pavia spoke his mind about that. I'm sure that rivalry is going to be ignited. The entire Big Ten is finally unified on something, and that is that Diego Pavia is probably public enemy number one, and the SEC is soft for not playing 9 conference games, which Big Ten, you don't have to play 9 conference games. You could, but there's going to be some resolution to all of this. And I think it's just going to happen on the field. But Diego Pavia had a lot of other things to say other than these 2 quotes that I really liked. We'll talk about what those things are, or just a tip of the iceberg of those things next. All right, wrapping up here, Locked On Vandy. Diego Pavia has created quite the stir, quite the buzz, and I love it. It's kind of it brings Vanderbilt into the forefront. It brings them into relevancy a little bit, where everybody's kind of like, wait a second, I think if Vanderbilt didn't have the season they had last season, if Diego Pavia wasn't the quality of quarterback that he was, A, he probably wouldn't have been on Bussin' with the Boys. But B, I think his comments would have been widely ignored. I think people are firing back because they know there's some truth behind it. And they know that, okay, maybe, he's got a point and it kind of sucks that, he's got a point, but we're not really in a position to do something about it. And so it's kind of a situation to where, okay, like now Diego Pavia has put himself and Vanderbilt in the position to have the bullseye on their back, even more so than they already did. And I think, honestly, for Vanderbilt to be in that position, we're going to see what they're made of, right? We're going to see what this team now is made of, because they went 7-6. They can't sneak up on anybody for that reason alone. They beat Alabama, so they're not going to sneak up on them. They almost beat Missouri. They're not going to sneak up on them. The 7 games they won, except for Georgia Tech, because they're not playing Georgia Tech this year. But the other games that they won, they're not sneaking up on those guys. And of course, Georgia State would love nothing more than to come up here and win a second in a row over Vanderbilt and completely ruin all of this mojo that they have. Because I think if Georgia State beats them again, they will fall apart. But there's a lot of good things he said. There was a lot of good insight that he had on his decision-making process and how he followed Coach Kill. And a lot of his really good stuff got lost in a couple of these quotes, because these are obviously perfect sound bites to create shockwaves in the middle of June in the SEC. But, I think he said a lot of great things. I think he overall did a really good job with this interview and shed some light, because he likes to share things. and he shares details, whether they're good details or not. He shares them. That's for sure. And he shared a lot of good ones. He shared a lot of good insight about his relationship with Jerry Kill and Tim Beck and his decision to come to Vanderbilt. And the reason why he didn't take alleged $4.5 million in NIL money from somebody else in the league. I don't know who that was. Somebody obviously looking for a quarterback. Could have been Missouri. Could have been anybody else that was. I think Missouri was in the market. I think Oklahoma might have been in the market at some point. Maybe Bama took a peek at him. There's some things that happened probably that again. I don't know what happened with that $4.5 million NIL offer, but I mean, he offered a lot of good insights on that stuff. So lost in all that was we're going to run the state of Tennessee, and the SEC is superior, is kings in college football over the Big Ten. All right. And so those are things that are going to get talked about the most, rightfully so. But you got to love the confidence. You got to love the confidence, not only in your ability to control the state, but I think he pumped a lot of confidence into the conference as a whole. And I think all the members should be like, oh, yeah, what he said. Like, I think all the members are going to be like, except for Tennessee. Tennessee's going to hate everything. But I think all the members are like, yeah, we're the best conference. Diego Pavia said so. You better listen. He is right. As much as you may want to hate on him for the other stuff, he is right about the SEC. It is a gauntlet. But some of the other things I like that he said, he talked about his weapons that he has. He is especially complimentary of his former teammate, now turned new teammate, MK Young. They were teammates at New Mexico State, or Vandy State Aggiedors. And MK Young was a freshman, didn't play a lot as a freshman, but I think scored a touchdown in the Auburn game. So you saw a little glimpse of MK Young, but he had a lot of great things to say about him. He said he is the guy. He's got speed, all the things that you want in a tailback. Would be a perfect complement to Cedric Alexander. So I really like that. He's confident in these wide receivers. And if he's confident, I'm confident, right? Trent Hudson, I think, is going to be a really good addition. They were teammates as well 2 seasons ago at New Mexico State. I think there's some other guys coming in that I think have a lot of talent that will be able to go and make plays in the passing game. I really liked what he said about what the NFL scouts told him. If you listen to yesterday's episode, you will find out that the first thing I said about what he needs to do to get better in the eyes of the NFL scouts, they told him that as well, and that's the reason why he came back to Vanderbilt. It's a pretty obvious reason, but to hear NFL scouts validate that to him, and for him to be aware of that, as confident and as borderline cocky as you want to say as he is, he understands that, and NFL scouts have illustrated that. So, and I didn't, prior to me making those comments, I didn't know they had said that to him, but that kind of validates what I said and what I was thinking and what a lot of you were thinking. He's got to be a better passer. But even more detailed than that, I said that he has to do it more from the pocket. He has to be able to push the ball down the field more accurately, and he has to be able to, deliver that mostly from within the pocket and stay in his reads and not bail out so quick. So that was good to hear as well. But I mean, just the overall confidence he has in this group, man. I mean, they asked him if he could beat Alabama. He said, absolutely, we can do it. We have the roster to do it. I would be doing myself a disservice if I said we didn't. And I'll have more on this too as well. He's got game 3 circled on his calendar, by the way. That's a matchup with Lenore Sellers, who arguably, I say arguably because you have Garrett Nussmeier there and you have a lot of great quarterbacks in this league, a lot of unproven ones, but you have a lot of great quarterbacks in this league. But Lenore Sellers is arguably the best quarterback in the conference. They face off in week 3 in a night game at Williams-Brice Stadium, which I might change my opinion a little bit on that game. It's going to be a tough one to win, but again, within this league, everybody's good. And a lot of upsets happened at night last season. So like Kevin Garnett said, anything's possible. So a lot of good things came from this interview, but of course, running the state of Tennessee, which I like the ambition behind it, and somebody needs to say it. from Vanderbilt. Like somebody needs to stand up for Vanderbilt from inside of Vanderbilt. Like somebody needs to like, hey, we're here. Like, you know, and then they just need to go out and prove it after that. So I think that was very good to say. And of course, I agree with his notion that the SEC is much deeper than the Big Ten. So and we can do a side-by-side comparison. You know, if anybody wants to combat that, don't give me singular game stats here. Just line the teams up 1 through 16 and let's match them up. Okay. Obviously the top is like I said, holds the crown now, but that's all the fun we're going to have today. We can continue on this topic. We can break down some things more in detail as we go. But Diego Pavia making shockwaves throughout college football, giving sports talk radio in the Southeast a lot to talk about. So with that, I will let you guys go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you guys come back at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms. Please like, subscribe, and we'll see you back here next time on the Locked On Vandy Podcast Network. On the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Anchor down. Peace.